exhibit was Phillips Martz's, who had recently been down to Antarctica and had made these recordings of these deep guttural ice shifts, these howling winds, these wild fauna, and played them back to us in a black box contemporary gallery, which was, the disconnection of context was so disconcerting. I think people really took away, not to use the pun, but it really resonated with people. And so I think finally the point that really fell out of it is we wanted to know, what are we doing? What are we actually trying to achieve? We're actually, I think, asking people, and we're trying to redesign consciousness and with the goal of action. So really moving towards behaviour change to some extent. We have the technology, as we all know. It can actually sustain our most beautiful visions that we have of the future, but we need to present that way, that kind of approach in a more non-threatening, in a more accessible, in a less scary way, effectively. I think there's enough politics and economics out there, and it's actually the science that we need to hear about. I think the science is too impenetrable at the moment. There's not enough clear action around the science, and so for me, I think artists are best poised to do that because they can act as a distillation process of the science and create works where they can actually have you just be interested in a piece of work, and then slow ripples of that science can come out. But really, you're engaged in the work because of its aesthetic beauty, it's the message that it brings, for a myriad of reasons. So this is a work by Brie Trenery, which is part of our visual arts exhibition. Now, it's strange. It's a strange sort of fake, real piece of work where it's fake green grass. Then they're actually nitrate balls, which effectively supplanted the soil. So instead of this organic process, you saw these strange futuristic-looking balls. But growing out of them were actual plants, which grew over 3 weeks and grew into a beautiful garden bed to some extent. People loved this work. They dove into it. They picked up these little balls. They wanted to find out how something that was so conceivably organic grew out of something so far ahead in terms of looking into the future. And so I just wanted to say that I think it's at that point when people are at their weakest, they're most interested, they're diving into something, that's the interesting point, because inherent in interest is this idea of engagement. So if you get someone interested, you create a personal contract with them to effectively take that information home and do something about it. And lastly, I just want to go back to my mentor, Joseph Beuys, to a maxim of his, which is, every human being is an artist, and I fully believe this, and it's one of the reasons why I effectively named my organisation after some of his work. I think that we all have natural curiosity, we all have active imaginations, we're all someone who's always trying to change things, and we all have the creative capacity. We just need the tools and the techniques to apply them. And so, fundamentally what I think it is about is that it has to be with deep respect and an understanding of our audience's values and opinions that we engage them. And we have to engage them with intellect and with honesty. And that's what I
do. So like an old tractor, converted it into rapeseed oil, and it was used to drive a generator that produced energy for the festival. And the waste heat that came from the exhaust or out of the engine, that was used to drive an advanced cooling system that could actually cool beer. So with the waste heat from the tractor, you could actually cool beer.
CO2 Copenhagen was not about limitations and restrictions. We wanted to show that the future is full of new, exciting opportunities.
There are, like, for example, fuel cells fueled by hydrogen was one option, and we also did that. And one of the big ones was the Stirling engine, because it produced quite a lot of energy all the time, and we had the feeling that it would be a reliable source of energy, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't just suddenly black out and then stop the whole festival. Finally, we had enough different energy sources to be able to say that, okay, we think we're able to pull this off.
And at the end, we ended up producing much more energy than the festival actually needed. We had a lot of interest from bands and from organizations who wanted to be involved in the festival.
I'm Mark Warford, with me is Kenna Ramsey and Nadira X, and we're here based on our desire to raise awareness about issues pertaining to the planet. Baby, what's over me?
We wanted to show that a society on 100% renewable energy is possible right now. And we also wanted to inspire cities and festivals around the world to become much more green. We spent 2 years doing all the preparation for the festival. I'm a journalist, and the co-founder is called Nina, who's not here today, but she's an architect. And I think if... that's the bike stage that you saw in the film. The festival was made up of all the new technologies that exists, and we wanted to show, as I said in the film, that if we use all these technologies, we can actually live in a world on renewable energy at the moment or right now. It was also really important to show that we looked at all the different festivals in Denmark and also in England, and I think what we found out was that it's actually also it's less money to produce a festival this way that we did, because we reduced a lot of energy. We're especially looking at the kitchen, which is the biggest energy eater in a festival, and we tried to find new ways to have fun and great festival food without using much cooling. And what Kim said in the film was that all the cooling that we used came from from the heat that was produced that produced the energy. So the waste heat was turned into cooling. So we find a lot of new ways to use less energy. We wanted to show that the future is fun, that a green future is not going back to some mud hut and not doing anything at all. Live an inspiring and great life, and still take care of the planet.